Hey guys, hope everything's going well. You guys know that drill. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, comment down below. Follow me on Instagram at AIH_sports. Follow me on my finance channel at AIH Finance. Okay, so in December of last year, I did a video when I had not that many followers, maybe 500. This was probably the most viewed video that I've had. And it was called Is History Repeating Itself? And what I was saying that, hey, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Mark Twain, that's what he said. And I talked about the Federal Reserve. I talked about people getting into fights and all of that fun stuff, okay?
Two, you could see that individuals in their 20s and 30s, grown men, used to fight over cards at stores. And I got this information from my buddy Don. He said that, hey, old men are fighting over sports cards back then and today. And today they're fighting over sports cards at Walmart, Target. Guns were allegedly, there was gunfire involved in some of these cases. It's insane. And you could see the mania where people, they just want to flip these boxes that have a lot of supply to begin with, and they're just fighting over it because they think that they can make money by flipping it. It's quite insane, but it happened. And the third thing, which is also my interest, is looking at the monetary policy end. So in the 1980s, the interest rates were about 10%, the short end of the curve. And then Alan Greenspan lowered the interest rates from 1989 to the mid 90s, like 93, 94. It was about 3%. That's a huge decrease. And you had all that money coming in because when you lower interest rates, you have to buy a bond. So you're increasing liquidity in the system. You're artificially doing that. So it went to the stock market, it went into sports cards, it went into real estate, etc. So what happened here in the US, like 2018, in my opinion, was a good time to buy. So they were lowering interest rates. This time it was from 2%. And then if you look at last year, the increase in liquidity in the system was insane. The rates went to zero at the short end of the curve. And they kept on giving all this stimulus to people. And so you had all of this excess speculation in the market. And now, what's a little different is in the 1990s, mid-1990s, 1994, they just raised interest rates from 2% to about 5% within 1 year. That killed the bond market, that killed the sports card market, killed basically collectibles industry.
And if you just look at it, what's quite interesting, I knew that the Fed would be raising rates. I didn't know how aggressive they would be. I was kind of surprised that they were as aggressive as they were. And the Federal Reserve, they raised interest rates in 1994 when the sports card bubble burst. About 300 basis points from my memory, 2% to about 5%. And we had the federal funds rate right now close to I think it's, let me just take a look. It's somewhere between 3 and 3.25. This is pretty much the same thing that we saw in 1994. Just think about that, right? And it's just really interesting that the time where sports cards just crumble, and okay, you could be like, hey, sports cards started to crumble. The first shoe to drop was when the economy opened up in March of 2021. And then I see some comments saying that, hey, PSA shut down, so you had less demand for the cards as well. Okay, that could be a valid argument. But then the second part of the component, in my opinion, or the other part, is monetary policy. Fed raises rates aggressively, you get positive interest rates like we do right now. If you look at the 10-year Treasury inflation protected securities, that's probably what I'm looking at right now, 130 basis points positive, right? We had negative TIPS yield, which I've discussed in my previous videos. You could take a look at it. I'm not going to repeat the concept over and over again. If you want to know my thoughts about that, put a comment down below, message me or whatever, and I'll send you the link to where I explained it. I know Pancake Analytics says repeat it over and over again, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just send them that video. So you had that part, okay? Federal Reserve aggressively raising interest rate. 300 basis points, right? And you also had a few things happen a little after that. You had, which I think is going to happen in the coming years, and I'll tell you why. This is an article from Sports Illustrated. It's called House of Cards, and that actually is a video that Dan the Cardman did. He did House of Cards. How interesting. It's a good channel, by the way. So, House of Cards, driven by greed, the sports trading card industry all but collapsed. Can it rebuild itself? This was Sports Illustrated, July 29th, 1996. We arrived too late to ask George Pierce what he thought about the sports trading card crash. The name of his once thriving business, Triple Play Sports Shop in Overland Park, Kansas, had already been removed from the storefront's marquee. All that was visible inside the abandoned store was a patched carpet and some debris. So we moved on. And this is an interesting paragraph. 5 miles away at Kansas City's Ward Parkway Shopping Center, we found Alan Martin, the owner of Jay's Sports Cards and Collectibles, sitting on a stool behind his counter, watching a basketball game on TV. No, he said it. It wasn't a bad time to talk. There wasn't much chance that we would be interrupted. Certainly not by endless stream of boys in Kansas City Chiefs caps and Chicago Bulls jackets who were hustling past the store on their way to the 22-screen multiplex. Card shops are dropping like flies, Martin said. There used to be 20 in the city. Now there are 6 or 7. Okay? That's really interesting. So, this was the aftermath after the junk wax era. And if you're just looking at this, what's going to happen in the next few years? Fanatics is going to be taking over all the licenses. What's going to happen to the hobby shops, right? A lot of these LCSs, they're going to have trouble. And there will be some that survive. Some shops that are going to survive are going to be guys like Card Collector 2's shop. I expect those individuals, those that are young, that probably will have a good relationship with Fanatics, whether or not Josh Luber's there. This is who they're looking for. They're not looking for the old guy. So yeah, you're going to have some shops, but it's not going to be people that used to get, as Sports Card Radio says, the homie hookup, right, from these distributors. They're not going to get that anymore. So that's something that I will expect to see in the coming years once Fanatics takes over. So history is not the same, right? It doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. Now, I think there's going to be a few differences from the 90s to now. I do expect a rally in sports cards, or at least a bounce. And the reason why I say a bounce is because I believe the Fed is going to stop raising rates shortly. Otherwise, it's going to create a whole bunch of problems. And also, the dollar index seems to be overheated. I thought it was overheated a couple of months ago, but it just kept on going higher. But eventually, I believe those trends will change, and that should be beneficial to collectibles. I'm thinking maybe 18 months, some cycles that I'm looking at. But, it is what it is. This is just my thoughts. And But after that cycle ends, right? What's going to happen to these hobby shops? Same thing as you see in this article in Sports Illustrated, dated from 1996. So, yeah, it's just quite interesting. So, 1994, and you had all of these interest rates go up, right? 2022, same thing, you know? And I know that there's some other aspects as well, but then I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, and people were fighting, right? People were fighting last year, right? In the 90s, Don told me people were fighting. So it's stuff like that. We have all these crazy things going on. But it is what it is. I like looking at these type of things. I like looking at history because I wanted actually to be a history major, but I knew that there weren't that many jobs in there, and I knew that, hey, accounting, I like numbers, so it suited me well. But this is my hobby. I like looking at past trends and discussing them. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Comment down below, guys. Thank you. Bye.